Doctors and nurses revealed what happens when a dad works out that the baby isn't theirs. The doctors and nurses look at one another confusedly, worriedly. They've just delivered a newborn, but something's not quite right about the baby. Namely, the child clearly does not belong to the father who's holding the new mom's hand. When they tell him, they'll never forget his reaction to the news. This isn't a scene from a movie. Nurses, doctors, and other professionals have seen such situations unfold. Now they've taken to Reddit to share their dramatic delivery room stories. In some cases, it's instantly clear that the newborn has a different dad. In others, though, it takes a few more details to reveal the truth. Either way, it's not easy for dads to find out the newborn they've been anticipating doesn't actually belong to them. Their reactions range from flat-out denial to stunned silence and violence against the other man. Here are some of Reddit's most emotional tales of gestation, labor, and delivery, and the drama that ensues when a man realizes he's not the father. Sometimes dads find out they're not a newborn's father due to a very subtle detail, and one NICU nurse shared such a story through Reddit. As she recalled, a couple welcomed a baby who came into the world with an abnormality resulting from a faulty gene. Specifically, the child was missing a limb, but was healthy in every other aspect. Even so, the pediatrician still needed to discuss the baby's future checkups and treatments with the parents. During that conversation, the newborn's mother just happened to ask what the child's blood type was. The doctor replied that it was A positive, which came as a complete surprise to the new father. That was because the baby's father knew both he and his wife had O negative blood. As such, any child they produced would also be type O. But the pediatrician rechecked the newborn's file and verified that the child was indeed A positive. As a result of the confusion, medical staff even redid the test to confirm its accuracy. The NICU nurse wrote in the post, "There's absolutely no chance that the baby belonged to that man." So he left the hospital and stayed away until it came time for the mom and baby to head home. He picked them up, but there was no further information beyond that. The commenter didn't reveal whether he stayed with his wife or not. Another dad dealt with similar news, but not when his baby was born. Instead, he'd actually gone to the hospital as his daughter gave birth to her child. As a result, one Reddit user shared this story, passed down from their mother, who served as a nurse in the labor ward. At her hospital, she and other staffers used a whiteboard to keep track of their patients' vital statistics. Of course, the hospital staff couldn't use patients' names alongside their information. This would be a violation of privacy. So the board listed ID numbers, and beneath that, some pertinent medical information, such as the person's blood type. And a new mom on the ward, the only woman there at the time, was recorded as B positive. As the patient's father walked by the whiteboard, he scanned his daughter's information, and seeing her blood type stopped him dead in his tracks. According to the Reddit user's mother, the new grandfather asked one of the medical professionals on the ward to confirm the information. They said yes, his daughter did indeed have B positive blood. The man was left stunned. His wife, the patient's mother, had A negative blood, while his was O positive. And together, those two types could never create a B positive baby. In other words, he found out that his daughter wasn't actually his, and he discovered it when she went into labor with his grandchild. The timing of a birth can also raise eyebrows. Another Reddit user shared a paternity scandal from their time working on labor wards. One October, a mom-to-be came in with early labor pains, and the baby's father worried that it wouldn't be safe to deliver the child so soon. The medical expert then tried to talk the dad down. They explained that the mom would likely deliver a healthy baby as she was 37 weeks pregnant, which isn't considered premature in the medical community. The hospital staffer wrote on Reddit he wouldn't believe it and wanted more explanation. Eventually, the expectant father asked when his partner would have gotten pregnant if she was that far along. Counting backwards 37 weeks, the Reddit user estimated that the baby would have been conceived in January. With that, the father-to-be realized something. He said, "I was out of town for all of January." Understandably, he then stormed out of the hospital and left the mom-to-be screaming in distress and pain. In a related area, plenty of stories exist where military spouses realize they had an impossible timeline for conception, particularly when their overseas deployments are taken into consideration. One ultrasound technician for the armed services recalled via Reddit that a woman and her husband came in for a scan during the first trimester of her pregnancy. Then the expectant parents started sharing more information with the medical professional. The ultrasound technician wrote, "As I was scanning and talking with them, it came out that the husband had only just come back from his deployment. At first, everything seemed above board. The tech said that the mom's last recorded period lined up with the dad's return from his deployment. However, once the ultrasound lit up, the technician could see that the fetus in the image wasn't 10 weeks old. Instead, the expert estimated that the growing baby had been in gestation for about 22 weeks, more than double the time frame given by the parents. Measurement of the child's abdomen and head circumference then confirmed the imaging tech's suspicions. But the story didn't end there. The ultrasound technician said that once those measurements come in, the baby's gestational age then pops up on screen. Knowing an awkward conversation would no doubt follow, the imaging expert tried to block the father's line of vision. But the dad glimpsed it and asked what it was. At that point, the tech suggested the couple speak to their doctor and got out of a potentially explosive situation. In some cases, it's physical traits that give away a baby's true parentage. One NICU nurse shared a method for helping dads tell if a child isn't theirs. The medical professional wrote on Reddit, "If you have a chin dimple, then one of your parents has to have a chin dimple. It's always interesting when we get a baby with a chin dimple and neither parent has a discerning chin dimple." Dads might also request paternity tests if their supposed babies come into the world with Mongolian spots. These birthmarks are visible in the upper layers of a child's skin and are caused when pigmentation has gotten stuck in its lower layers. The resulting spots can appear blue, black, greenish, or gray. Typically, Mongolian spots cause no harm to the baby who has them. However, they can cause a rift between expectant parents if their child is born with these particular birthmarks. And that's because they tend to appear in babies who have pigmented skin. Simply put, they occur most commonly in non-white infants. A children's infectious diseases doctor and labor ward assistant shared via Reddit how a couple welcomed a remarkable set of triplets. Both parents were white, but one of their babies had an obvious Mongolian spot. At first, the practitioner said staff didn't see it as too unusual because the spots do occur in very rare situations for white infants. Even more rare, though, as the medical professional noted, were triplets with different fathers. So the hospital staff ignored the signs that one child might not have the same dad as the others. However, when the trio of newborns returned to an adjacent clinic for a checkup, word spread that the baby with Mongolian spots just didn't look like the other two siblings. As the physician put it, the infant with the spot was obviously darker skin and characteristics found in typically Indian or Middle Eastern babies. This realization forced the baby's mother to reveal a secret, namely that she and one of her colleagues had a one-night stand while on a business trip together. The labor ward assistant wrote, "The affair was never spoken of and the mom assumed she was in the clear until the babies were born. The triplets' father, though, couldn't ignore the elephant in the room. As a result, the couple moved into separate homes after he realized he couldn't have fathered all three babies." According to one Redditor who worked as a nurse, however, the most common sign that a dad isn't a newborn's father is the baby's skin color. The nurse shared, often the answers are determined within about 15 seconds after birth. Black baby and white parents are the most common true surprise. Indeed, the message board overflowed with stories that seemed to corroborate this statement. One Redditor shared a story on behalf of their partner, a trained midwife. She recalled working with a white couple who just had a healthy baby boy. When the dad left the room, though, the mom started talking. The new mother asked the midwife, "Is the baby black?" The midwife was shocked, responding, "What? Could he be?" She then checked the infant's skin, especially in the telltale areas where it might be more pigmented, and lo and behold, the medical professional discovered that the baby was indeed black. With that, the new mom made a final request. She asked the midwife to tell the man who thought he was the father that the baby was actually black. Ultimately, though, the midwife refused to fulfill such a duty. The Redditor concluded, "I don't know what happened in the end. The baby was much loved. That's the main thing." Other situations, however, come with a bit more tension. Another Reddit user shared a tale from their father who worked as a paramedic for more than 2 decades. During this time, he picked up a mom-to-be who had gone into labor. He then drove both her and her husband to the hospital. The ambulance, however, didn't make it to the hospital in time, which meant that the woman ended up delivering her newborn in the back of the vehicle. The Reddit user then revealed, "My dad said that the baby came out fairly dark, considering both parents were white. Then things got awkward. The paramedic said it was the single quietest moment of his life." Of course, some cases cause even more tension, according to the medical staff who deal with them. As such, a Redditor shared a tale from their cousin who worked as a nurse. They helped as an African-American couple welcomed a baby together. While the mom pushed, though, the practitioner felt that something wasn't right. Specifically, the Redditor wrote, "The nurse realized that the baby was half white while it was coming out. Making matters worse, the dad-to-be had no idea. When the medical staffer took the baby fully out, the man started actually freaking out since his wife had obviously cheated on him, and this was most certainly not his child." Even more upsetting was the fact that the new mother couldn't tell her husband who the father was, as she'd apparently been unfaithful more than once. Nevertheless, the nurse didn't know what happened with the couple in the end, although the expectant dad freaking out may have signaled that the relationship was over. And then, of course, there are cases where the drama and tension comes to a head, leading to physical altercations. One hospital employee told the story of a young married couple, both of whom were white. However, the wife gave birth to a black baby, completely shocking her husband. The hospital staffer shared, "The wife didn't even warn her partner of the possibility that it would not be his kid. And as if that wasn't difficult enough for the husband to deal with, things then took a dramatic turn. Someone else turned up to see the new mom, her boyfriend. Once the real father arrived, she declared then and there that she wanted to be with him instead. Upon hearing this news, the husband went off, according to the hospital staffer. Scarily, he got violent and started beating up both of them. Eventually, the police came to arrest him, but the whole thing caused a huge scene," the Redditor explained. Plus, they added that it was a horrible way to find out that your spouse has been cheating on you. And finally, there are some dads who fail to take the hint that a newborn isn't actually theirs. One Redditor is the former employee of a urologist who had plenty of patients in for vasectomies. A man came in for the procedure, and at his 3 and 6 month checkups, the doctor found that the surgery had worked perfectly. 2 years later, though, the man reappeared in the office, ranting and raving about how the urologist hadn't performed the vasectomy properly. He knew this, he had said, because his wife was currently pregnant. So the doctor brought him in for a semen analysis, and sure enough, the procedure had held up. He had zero chance of fostering a child. But when the doctor told the father this, he didn't put 2 and 2 together. Instead, he and his wife angrily left the physician's office. The Redditor wrote, "The wife stuck to her story that she would never cheat on her husband, and the husband was in complete denial that she'd ever lie about it." So sometimes clues go unnoticed by expectant fathers, but never by the doctors or nurses who remember these wild stories for years.